It began as an ordinary day. The city of New York was alive with the usual noise: cars honking, people shouting, street vendors calling out to customers. Office workers rushed to their jobs. Children laughed on their way to school. Above it, all the morning sun shone through scattered clouds, casting warm light over the tall glass buildings. But at 9:12 a.m., something changed. The sunlight faded, little by little, as if a great storm was forming. People tilted their heads, expecting to see thick clouds. Instead, they saw shadows. Huge, unnatural shadows that moved slowly across the sky. At first, no one understood what they were looking at. The shapes were massive, too straight and too sharp to be clouds. They stretched for miles, covering the sun like a giant curtain. A construction worker was the first to shout, "Hey! That's not weather!" More and more people stopped to stare. The shadows grew darker. The air turned colder. Even the sound of the city seemed to quiet. The wind stopped. Then, with a slow and deliberate motion, the dark shapes broke through the clouds. Gasps filled the streets. They were ships. Enormous ships, bigger than anything made by human hands. Their surfaces were covered in strange black armor, reflecting almost no light. Tower-like structures rose from their decks, and glowing symbols moved across their sides like living tattoos. There were not just one or two ships. There were hundreds. They drifted silently, like predators circling their prey. Across the city, people pulled out their phones and began recording. Videos flooded social media within minutes. The footage was unbelievable. The alien armada hovered above the Earth's largest cities: New York, London, Beijing, Tokyo, Sydney. In Washington, D.C., the Pentagon went into full lockdown. Fighter jets scrambled from air bases across the country, streaking into the sky. At 9:17 a.m., every TV, every phone, and every digital screen flickered. The image changed to a strange symbol, a circle surrounded by 3 triangles. Then, a voice spoke. It was deep, metallic, and inhuman, yet somehow it was in every language at once. "People of Earth, you are in the presence of the Imperial Dominion. We claim your world as our new territory. Prepare for submission. Resistance will result in complete destruction." The message lasted only 10 seconds. Then the screens went black. Panic spread like fire. People screamed. Some ran for shelter. Others froze where they stood. Police tried to control the crowds, but even they looked at the sky in fear. High above, the alien ships remained motionless, watching. In the White House Situation Room, President Carter stood with his top advisors, staring at live feeds from around the world. Every major city showed the same image: the Black Armada hanging like a storm about to break. "Any communication from them?" the president asked. "Only that one broadcast, sir," replied General Ross. "No response to our hails." "What about the United Nations?" "They're convening an emergency meeting right now, but—" Ross hesitated. "Sir, the fleet is too big. We're looking at a full planetary invasion." No one spoke for a moment. The only sound in the room was the quiet hum of the monitors. Far away, in a secret underground facility in Nevada, alarms blared. Scientists and engineers rushed between consoles, studying the alien readings. The Armada's ships were radiating a type of energy no human had ever recorded before. "It's not nuclear, it's not chemical," one scientist muttered. "It's something else, some kind of gravimetric field." "Could it be a weapon?" asked another. "Could be," the first replied grimly. "Or maybe it's their engines, and if that's true, they could move faster than light." In the streets of New York, reporter Anna Price stood on top of a news van, microphone in hand. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said into the camera, her voice trembling but steady, "we are now witnessing what may be the most important moment in human history. The skies above New York are filled with what appears to be an extraterrestrial fleet. No signs of attack yet, but the tension here is like a heavy weight. People don't know whether to run, hide, or just watch. Behind her, a low, distant rumble began. It was not thunder. One of the alien ships slowly rotated, revealing a glowing blue sphere embedded in its underside. The sphere pulsed, sending waves of light through the air. Suddenly, car alarms began to wail. Streetlights flickered. Every electronic device buzzed with static. People clapped their hands over their ears as a deep vibration shook their bones. Then, just as suddenly as it began, the glow faded. The ship returned to its silent watch. In the control room at NORAD, military analysts replayed the event in slow motion. It wasn't an attack, one officer said. It was a scan. They were scanning us. The president's voice came over the secure line. Scan or not, they're not here for peace. Put every defense system on high alert. And get me options. We can't just wait for them to fire the first shot. But in truth, no one had any real options. The alien armada was too large, too advanced. Humanity's most powerful weapons might not even scratch their armor. Back in New York, the strange tension in the air grew heavier. Even the animals seemed to sense it. Birds refused to fly. Dogs barked and pulled at their leashes. Somewhere, in the distance, a car crashed as its driver stared at the sky instead of the road. Then, without warning, a bright streak of light fell from one of the ships. It blazed through the atmosphere, leaving a trail of fire. People screamed and scattered, thinking it was a missile. But instead of striking the city, the object plunged into the distant waters of the Atlantic Ocean. Moments later, seismographs around the world recorded a massive impact under the sea. Deep in the dark waters, something was moving toward the American coastline. The Pentagon detected it instantly. "Sir," a radar technician reported, "we have an unidentified submerged object heading west at 300 knots. "That's impossible," said the naval commander. "Nothing moves that fast underwater." The president was informed immediately. "Do we have visuals?" "Negative, sir. It's too deep. But if it keeps its course, it will reach the coast in less than 2 hours." In the Situation Room, no one dared say the thought on everyone's mind. If the ships in the sky weren't enough, something was coming from the ocean as well, and no one knew what it was. The alien fleet still hung in the clouds, silent, motionless, like hunters waiting for their prey to exhaust itself. The whole planet seemed to hold its breath. But far below the surface, the dark shape in the ocean was getting closer, closer. That day, the sun never returned to New York. The sky remained black. The city lights stayed on even at noon, and humanity's countdown had already begun. The world was holding its breath. Hours had passed since the alien armada entered Earth's orbit. The giant ships still hung in the sky like a wall of metal and shadow. They did not move. They did not fire. They simply watched. People hoped it meant they were not going to attack. But deep down, everyone felt the same fear. Predators often wait before they strike. In New York, the streets were half empty now. Many had fled to the countryside, while others stayed locked in their apartments, glued to the news. Helicopters circled above, their cameras aimed at the dark shapes in the clouds. At the United Nations building, representatives from almost every nation argued about what to do. Some wanted to send a message of peace. Others demanded a preemptive strike, but no one could agree. Meanwhile, far from the crowded cities, something was moving under the ocean. The object that had fallen from the alien ship was no ordinary probe. Submarines sent to investigate picked up strange readings. Not metal, not stone, but something alive. The sonar image showed a shape that changed every second, as if it were shifting and adapting to the water around it. On board the USS Colorado, Captain Mason studied the blurry sonar screen. "It's getting faster," his sonar officer said quietly. 350 knots now. "Sir, nothing on Earth can move like this." Mason's face tightened. "Keep tracking it. Don't lose it for a second. The object was heading straight toward the U.S. East Coast. If it kept its course, it would reach land before nightfall. Back in Washington, the president listened to the report in silence. General Ross stood beside him, arms crossed. "Sir," the general said, "if this thing is a weapon, we'll have no time to stop it once it surfaces." "And if it's not a weapon?" the president asked. Ross shook his head. "Then it's something worse. Something we don't understand." While leaders debated, the alien ships above the cities began to shift their positions. Slowly, they moved into perfect formations, huge triangles that hovered over each continent. From the ground, they looked like floating fortresses, blocking out the sky. In Beijing, a military satellite captured something alarming. Small craft were detaching from the larger ships, hundreds of them. They looked like metallic insects, each with glowing blue engines. The swarm drifted toward Earth's atmosphere, but stopped just above the clouds. They were waiting. At the same time, strange interference began disrupting all long-range communications. Deep space telescopes went dark. Weather satellites failed. GPS systems gave random coordinates. Dr. Lena Harper, an astrophysicist working at a secure research station, noticed something strange in the data. "They're not just blocking signals," she told her colleague. "They're mapping our entire planet, in real time. Every signal we send, every broadcast, they're recording it." Her colleague frowned. "Why?" Lena's answer was grim. "So when they strike, they'll know exactly where to hit." In the Atlantic, the underwater object made its move. Without warning, it shot upward, breaking through the waves with a massive splash. Cameras on nearby ships caught the first clear image. A sleek black machine the size of a small building, its surface rippling like liquid metal. It had no windows, no visible weapons, yet it radiated power. The machine floated for a moment, then released a pulse of deep blue light across the water. Within seconds, all nearby ships lost power. Engines died. Lights went out. Radios went silent. From his crippled submarine, Captain Mason stared at the dark control panels. "They're shutting us down," he whispered. The machine then sank, back beneath the waves, and disappeared. News of the incident reached the White House within minutes. Panic was spreading again. The alien fleet was no longer just a shadow in the sky. It was showing its reach, its control, and still no attack had come. In the streets, people began to realize something unsettling. Maybe the aliens weren't waiting for humanity to make the first move. Maybe the invasion had already begun, quietly, invisibly, without a single shot fired. Somewhere, deep in the alien flagship, a figure stood before a vast holographic display of Earth. The glowing blue eyes of the Imperial commander studied the map. Every human city marked, every defense system identified. When he spoke, his voice was cold and certain. "Begin Phase 2. The alien fleet had been in Earth's skies for 2 days. 2 days of silence, 2 days of fear. But on the morning of the third day, everything changed. In Washington, D.C., air raid sirens wailed as a small alien craft broke away from the massive flagship above. The craft was unlike anything human eyes had seen. Smooth, black, and shaped like a spearhead. Its surface shimmered with blue light that pulsed like a heartbeat. Fighter jets scrambled to intercept it, but before they could get close, the craft released a wave of energy. The jet's engines sputtered, then died. One by one, the planes drifted helplessly, forced to glide back toward the nearest airbase. The alien craft descended slowly, deliberately, toward the White House lawn. Crowds had gathered behind barricades, their eyes fixed on the glowing ship. Police and soldiers kept them back, weapons ready but hands trembling. No one wanted to fire the first shot, not after what had happened to the jets. With a hiss of steam, the craft's hull split open. A ramp extended to the grass. From the shadows inside, a tall figure emerged. It was unlike the gray, thin aliens from old science fiction movies. This one was built for war. Its armor was dark silver, layered like the scales of some ancient predator. Its head was crowned with a crest of bone-like ridges, and its glowing blue eyes scanned the crowd with cold precision. In one hand, it held a long spear made of the same strange metal as its ship. The spearhead crackled faintly with energy, as if it could burn through steel. The alien stopped at the base of the ramp and stood perfectly still. When it spoke, the voice was deep and resonant, echoing unnaturally through the air. "I am Commander Vare of the Imperial Dominion." The crowd murmured in fear. The alien's gaze swept across them. "Your planet has been claimed by the Dominion. Your leaders will surrender all control within 24 of your hours. Refusal will result in the cleansing of this world's surface." The words were simple, but the weight behind them was crushing. The alien's tone carried no anger, no hatred, only certainty. President Carter stepped forward, surrounded by Secret Service agents. His voice was steady, though his eyes never left the alien's spear. "This is our home," he said. "We will not hand it over to you." The alien tilted its head slightly, as if curious. "You believe you can resist?" "We'll do more than resist," the president said. "We'll fight." A low, rumbling sound came from the alien. Laughter, though it was cold and humorless. "We have crossed the stars. We have destroyed fleets far greater than anything your species can imagine. Your fight will last minutes." The alien raised one hand. A small device on its wrist lit up, projecting a hologram into the air. It showed an image of Earth, but burning, cities in flames, oceans boiling. The message was clear. "We will return tomorrow for your surrender. If you are wise, you will give it." Without another word, the alien turned and walked back into its craft. The ramp closed, the ship lifted into the air, and in seconds, it was gone, streaking back toward the massive flagship. For a long moment, no one moved. The president's security detail hurried him inside while reporters shouted questions that no one could answer. In the skies above, the Armada remained silent, but in secret rooms and hidden bases, humanity began to prepare. Because if the alien, Commander thought the fight would only last minutes, then it was time to prove him wrong. Beneath the Nevada desert, far from the eyes of the public, a massive steel door slid open. Behind it lay one of the most closely guarded secrets in human history. The room was the size of a football field, filled with rows of glowing consoles, giant monitors, and humming generators. At the center stood a strange, towering machine, sleek, silver, and covered in spiraling coils that pulsed faint blue light. It was called Project Aegis. Most of the world didn't even know it existed. Even among the highest levels of government, only a handful of people had clearance to enter this room. And for good reason, Aegis wasn't just another weapon. It was a gamble. Dr. Ethan Graves, the lead scientist on the project, stood before a group of military officers and government officials. His white lab coat was wrinkled, his eyes bloodshot from weeks without proper sleep. But his voice was steady. "This is our best chance," he said, gesturing to the machine. Aegis was designed to disable starships by disrupting their energy cores. In theory, it could knock out even the largest vessel in seconds. "In theory?" General Ross asked sharply. Graves hesitated. "We've never tested it in a real battle. Until now, there was no need. But those ships up there..." He nodded toward the ceiling, meaning the alien armada above. "They're exactly what it was built for." The president, watching from the front of the group, folded his arms. "What's the risk?" Graves sighed. "The energy output is unstable. If the systems overheat, the entire facility could, well, let's just say the desert would have a new crater." For a moment, silence filled the room. The hum of the machine seemed louder, heavier. General Ross stepped forward. "We don't have a choice. If the Dominion attacks, our conventional weapons won't do a thing. This is all we've got." From a control station, technician Mara. Kim turned in her chair. "Sir, the system's already tuned to target the largest alien signature in orbit, their flagship. If we get a clear shot, we can fire in under 3 minutes." The president looked at Graves. "If we use it, will it work?" Graves didn't blink. "It has to." Across the world, other preparations were underway. Fighter squadrons were moved to hidden airstrips. Anti-satellite weapons were armed. Communications with allied nations buzzed with urgency, codes, and contingency plans. But no one outside Nevada knew about Aegis. Its power was too great and its risks too high to be revealed to the public. Up in orbit, aboard the alien flagship, Commander Vare walked through a vast command hall. Hundreds of alien officers worked at glowing control panels, their long fingers dancing over alien symbols. The central view screen showed Earth spinning below, every continent marked with targeting. Data. One of his lieutenants approached. "Commander, our scanners detect unusual energy activity in the human desert region. Shall we investigate?" Vare's blue eyes narrowed. "No, let them prepare whatever primitive defense they wish. It will not matter." But in the Nevada bunker, Mara Kim's voice came through the comms, urgent and sharp. "Sir, their flagship just shifted position. If they move any further, we may lose our lock." General Ross gave the order without hesitation. "Keep tracking them. When they come into range, we fire." The president stepped closer to the viewing window that overlooked the Aegis machine. Its coils glowed brighter, the hum deepening into a steady, powerful thrum. Somewhere above, the alien fleet still waited. Somewhere below, humanity's secret weapon prepared to awaken, and the clock was ticking toward the first shot of the war. The morning sky over Nevada was pale and still, as if nature itself was holding its breath. Inside the underground facility, Project Aegis hummed louder than ever. The coils glowed with fierce blue light, shadows dancing across the walls. Mara Kim's voice cut through the tension. "Target lock. Almost stable, 30 seconds. General." Ross stood behind her, arms folded, his eyes locked on the radar display. The alien flagship's massive silhouette hung in orbit, framed in red targeting brackets. Dr. Graves moved between control panels, checking energy readings. "Keep it steady. Overload by even 1%, and this whole place goes up." On the surface above, satellite feeds showed the alien fleet shifting. One of their smaller ships fired a brilliant lance of energy into space, striking a human, military satellite. The explosion scattered burning debris into the atmosphere. "That was one of our early warning satellites," a technician reported. "They're testing our defenses." Ross didn't blink. "Then let's show them we have some." Mara's voice rose. "Target locked." The room went silent. The president, watching from the back, gave a single nod. "Fire!" Graves slammed, his palm on the activation console. Aegis roared to life. A blinding beam of concentrated blue light shot upward through the reinforced launch shaft, tearing into the sky. In seconds, it pierced the edge of the atmosphere, crossing the gap to the alien flagship with impossible speed. On the flagship's bridge, alarms blared. Alien officers shouted in their strange language. Commander Vare spun toward the screen, his glowing eyes narrowing as the beam hit. The entire ship shuddered. For a split second, the flagship's shimmering energy field collapsed. Blue lightning crawled over its hull, arcing between towers. Then came a sound, a deep metallic groan, as if the ship itself were screaming. And then it exploded. The blast lit up the sky like a second sun. Pieces of alien armor tumbled into the upper atmosphere, burning as they fell. The shockwave rippled through space, knocking several smaller Dominion ships off course. In Nevada, cheers erupted in the control room. Soldiers clapped each other on the back. Some simply stood in stunned silence, unable to believe what they had just seen. Mara grinned wide. "Direct hit! Target destroyed!" But Graves wasn't smiling. His eyes were fixed on the energy readouts. "The system's overheating. We need to shut it down before—" The lights flickered. Sparks flew from the coils. The Aegis machine's glow began to pulse erratically. Ross barked, "Shut it down!" Technicians scrambled, slamming switches and cutting power. The hum died, replaced by the sound of hissing steam. The room smelled faintly of burning metal. Above Earth, the alien fleet was in chaos. Dozens of smaller ships darted around the blast, sight, scanning the debris. But within seconds, the chaos turned into something more dangerous. Rage. On the bridge of another massive warship, Commander Vare stood with his jaw tight. His flagship was gone, but his voice was calm, cold. "They have struck first. Now, we burn them." The alien fleet began to shift. Weapons unfolded along their hulls, glowing brighter than the morning sun. Humanity had taken the first shot. Now, the real war was about to begin. The alien fleet moved like a storm front, dark shapes sliding across the upper atmosphere. Their glowing weapons lit the sky, painting the clouds in hues of red and gold. From Earth, it looked like the heavens themselves were on fire. At air bases, across the globe, pilots ran to their fighters. Engines roared to life. Armored vehicles rolled into position. Naval ships scrambled from ports, their radar screens glowing with hundreds of hostile targets. In orbit, the Dominion ships began to descend. Their hulls shifted and unfolded, revealing long, jagged cannons that hummed with deadly energy. The first shot came from over the Pacific, a searing beam of white light that tore through the sky and slammed into an aircraft carrier. The blast split the ship in half, sending a tower of fire and smoke into the clouds. But humanity struck back. From hidden launch facilities, swarms of advanced fighter jets streaked upward, their afterburners blazing against the darkened sky. In the lead was Squadron Hawk, 12 of the world's most skilled pilots. Their orders were simple: draw the enemy's fire, hit them hard, and keep them away from the ground. Captain Ryan Falcon Hayes, Hawk leader, spoke into his comm. "All wings, weapons hot. Aim for the joints in their armor. Make every shot count." The first engagement began above the Atlantic. Alien drones, small insect-like ships with glowing eyes, swarmed toward the human fighters. They were fast, but not as agile. Falcon rolled his jet into a tight spin, dodging a streak of plasma fire. "They're quick, but they can't turn like we can. Keep moving!" Missiles streaked from human fighters, exploding against the drones. Hulls. Some went down in fireballs, tumbling toward the ocean. Others kept coming, weaving through the debris like predators chasing prey. High above the battle, 3 massive Dominion warships advanced. Each one was larger than a city block, their weapons cutting wide paths of destruction through the human defense line. On the ground, General Ross watched the satellite feed grimly. "If they break our fighters, the cities are next." Back in space, Falcon's squadron was running out of time. His wingman, callsign Viper, took a direct hit to the tail. The jet spun wildly, alarms screaming in the cockpit. "I'm hit!" "I'm going down!" Viper shouted before his comm went silent. His jet vanished into the thick clouds below. Falcon gritted his teeth. "Stay sharp. We're not losing anyone else." Then came a break. 2 alien warships drifted into range of Earth's orbital defense cannons. From hidden installations in Alaska and Eastern Europe, massive railguns fired streams of molten metal into the sky. The projectiles ripped through the warship's armor, sending chunks of burning metal spiraling away. Cheers erupted in control rooms around the world. Humanity had landed another hit, but the victory was short-lived. One of the Dominion warships rotated, aiming its main cannon at the orbital defenses. With a blinding flash, the cannon fired, and the Alaskan installation disappeared in a cloud of molten rock and dust. Falcon's voice cut through the comms. "We can't win this head-on. Draw them into the upper atmosphere. Let's see if—" They can handle a dogfight where we own the air. The human fighters broke formation, diving toward Earth's edge. The alien drones followed, their glowing engines leaving trails of light in the thin air. And for the first time since the invasion began, the humans fought not just to survive, but to take the fight back to their own skies. The first hours of battle had cost the Dominion more ships than they expected. Human fighters had proven faster and more unpredictable than their war logs had suggested. 2 warships were gone, dozens of drones destroyed, and the flagship's loss still burned in Commander Vair's mind. From the bridge of his personal cruiser, Vair stared at a holographic display of Earth. The glowing outlines of human cities pulsed like targets waiting to be claimed. His armored hands gripped the railing. "Enough of this," he said coldly. "Prepare the Sun Lance." The order spread through the ship like electricity. Deep inside the vessel's core, massive reactors powered up, feeding energy into a weapon that had never been fired at a human world. The Sun Lance was not meant for single targets. It was meant to erase entire landscapes. In orbit, the human defense network detected a sudden spike in energy readings. Red warning lights flashed across every military command center. "Sir, one of their heavy weapons is charging," shouted a radar officer in NORAD. "If it fires, we can't stop it." General Ross's jaw tightened. "Where's the target?" The answer came like a punch to the gut. "Washington, D.C. On the streets of the capital, air raid sirens wailed. People ran for shelters, their eyes scanning the sky in terror. Above, the clouds, the Dominion cruiser shifted its angle, the nose of the ship glowing brighter and brighter. In the underground Nevada facility, Dr. Graves stared at the satellite feed. "If that weapon fires, nothing in that city will survive." The president's voice came over the secure line. "Is Aegis operational?" "Not yet," Graves admitted. "It's still cooling from the first shot. If we fire too soon, it could destroy itself. And us." There was no time for debate. In orbit, the Sun Lance's tip blazed like a miniature star. The light grew so intense it hurt to look at. Then, with a soundless flash, the weapon fired. A colossal beam of golden energy tore through the atmosphere, leaving a trail of superheated air in its wake. The ground shook as it struck the heart of Washington. Buildings vaporized in an instant, streets melted into glowing rivers of molten stone, and a tower of fire rose into the sky. In the Nevada control room, silence fell. Ross's voice was low, grim. "Get me casualty estimates." The radar officer's voice cracked as he spoke. "Sir, the city's gone." Above Earth, Commander Vair watched the destruction with satisfaction. "Let them see what defiance costs." But far below, in what was left of Washington's outskirts, a handful of survivors crawled from the rubble, their faces lit by the burning horizon. And among them was someone the Dominion had not expected to live, a man who would soon play a far greater role in the war than either side could imagine. The ruins of Washington still smoldered when the first strange signal was detected. It wasn't from Earth, and it didn't match Dominion transmissions. It was faint, distorted, and repeating, like a whisper hidden in the noise of war. In Ida, the Nevada Command Center, Mara Kim leaned over her console, adjusting filters to clean the signal. Slowly, a voice emerged, speaking in heavily accented English. "Humans, we are not your enemy." General Ross and Dr. Graves exchanged wary glances. "Trace the source," Ross ordered. Within minutes, they had it. The signal was coming from an object in low Earth orbit. But it wasn't a Dominion warship. The satellite images showed a small, battered craft drifting just above the atmosphere, its hull covered in scorch marks and mismatched panels. Before they could decide what to do, the craft descended. It cut through the clouds and landed on a remote strip of desert outside the base. Soldiers surrounded it instantly, weapons raised. The ship's hatch hissed open, and 3 figures stepped out. They were aliens, but not like Commander Vare's soldiers. These ones were thinner, their armor dented and patched, their movements cautious. Their eyes glowed a softer shade of blue, almost dim. The lead alien raised both hands in a gesture of peace. "We are Karath separatists. We fight against the Dominion." General Ross didn't lower his weapon. "Why should we believe you?" The alien tilted its head. "Because your enemy is our enemy, and because we know how to kill them." That got everyone's attention. Inside the Nevada facility, the separatists explained their story. For centuries, the Dominion had ruled their world with fear and conquest. Many species had been enslaved or destroyed. But a small resistance, the separatists, had stolen ships and hidden in the dark between stars. They had followed the Dominion fleet here, hoping to strike a blow. But their weapons were too few, their ships too damaged. Still, they carried knowledge humanity didn't have. The lead alien pointed to a hologram of a Dominion warship. "Every vessel has a central reactor core. It powers their weapons, shields, everything. But it is hidden deep inside, protected by layers of armor. Hit it directly and the ship will die instantly." Mara frowned. "How do we get through the armor?" The alien's glowing eyes narrowed. "You don't. You go inside." A hush fell over the room. General Ross crossed his arms. "Boarding a Dominion warship is suicide." The alien's voice was calm. "Perhaps, but it is the only way you will survive." The president's voice came over the secure comms. "If this is real, we'll need a plan. And fast. Because Vare won't wait for us to make the first move again." Far above, the Dominion fleet was already reforming into new attack formations. The war wasn't just about defending Earth anymore. Now humanity had a target, the heart of the Dominion's power. The Nevada facility buzzed with activity. Maps, holograms, and battle reports covered the walls. Human officers and separatist warriors worked side by side, their voices low but urgent. In the center of the war room, a holographic projection of the Dominion flagship rotated slowly. Its jagged black hull shimmered under the blue light, its sheer size dwarfing every other ship in the fleet. "This," said the separatist leader, "is Vare's command ship, the Obsidian Fang. If we destroy it, the Dominion fleet will lose coordination. Without his command link, their drones will become blind and slow." General Ross studied the projection. "And the reactor core is here?" The alien nodded. "Buried deep, protected by armor 2 meters thick. You can't breach it from outside, but inside, it's vulnerable." Captain Ryan Falcon. Hayes stepped forward, arms crossed. "You're talking about a boarding mission. Through their defenses, through their troops, into the heart of their ship." "Yes," the separatist said simply. Dr. Graves adjusted his glasses. "What's our window of opportunity?" 4 minutes, the alien replied. "Once their shields are disrupted, the hangar doors will be exposed. You'll need to enter before they close again. Any longer and you'll be trapped outside. Or dead." Silence hung in the air. Everyone knew this was a one-way mission for some, maybe for all. Falcon broke the silence. "All right, I'll lead the team." Ross raised an eyebrow. "You realize you might not make it back?" Falcon gave a small, humorless smile. "We're all on borrowed time anyway." The planning began immediately. The team would be made of 12 humans and 6 separatists, chosen for their combat skills and technical knowledge. The separatists would guide them through the ship's twisting corridors, while the humans handled weapons and explosives. Specialized stealth shuttles would carry them close to the flagship, hidden inside the radar shadow of a larger separatist decoy ship. Once inside the hangar, they would move fast, plant explosives on key systems, reach the core, and detonate the charge before Vare could react. Mara Kim worked on hacking tools to bypass Dominion door systems. She glanced at Falcon. "If this Works. We could end the invasion in one strike. Falcon nodded but didn't smile. If it works. As the room emptied for final preparations, General Ross lingered by the hologram. His eyes traced the outline of the flagship. God help them if they fail, he muttered. Above Earth, the obsidian fang drifted silently, its black hull swallowing the light of the stars. Inside, Commander Vare paced the bridge, unaware that the deadliest mission of the war was already coming for him. The night above Earth was filled with war. Flashes of light streaked across the sky as human defense fleets traded fire with Dominion ships. Far beyond the main battle, hidden in the shadow of a massive separatist decoy vessel, a small shuttle glided silently toward the obsidian fang. Inside the shuttle, Falcon sat strapped into the co-pilot's seat, helmet on, rifle across his lap. His team sat in 2 rows behind him, 12 humans in dark combat armor, 6 separatists with their sleek alien weapons. Nobody spoke. The only sound was the steady hum of the engines and the quiet ticking of the countdown clock above the cockpit. 4 minutes. That was all the time they'd have. Shields dropping on the Fang, the pilot announced. Decoys taking heavy fire. Hangar doors in sight. Through the cockpit window, the Dominion flagship loomed larger and larger, its black hull stretching like the side of a mountain. Blue light shimmered faintly along its edges where shield energy faltered. Hold on, the pilot muttered, pushing the throttle. A burst of separatist cannon fire from the decoy ship slammed into the flagship's side, forcing the hangar bay. Doors open. The shuttle dove straight for the gap, weaving between streams of enemy fire. 2 minutes to seal, shouted a separatist gunner, bracing himself as the ship jolted from near misses. The hangar's interior was massive, high, enough for skyscrapers, wide enough to hold entire cities' worth of fighters. Dominion soldiers were already moving inside, pointing and shouting orders. Now or never, Falcon barked. The shuttle skidded across the deck, landing hard. The hatch hissed open and the boarding team poured out in 2 directions, weapons up, firing before their boots even hit the floor. Blue bolts from separatist rifles and red flashes from human carbines filled the air. Dominion drones rolled forward on mechanical limbs, their cannons spitting fire. Falcon dove behind a supply crate, returning shots in controlled bursts. One of the drones exploded under a separatist plasma blast, showering the deck with sparks. "Mara, we need that door open," Falcon yelled, pointing to the massive blast. Doors leading deeper into the ship. She slid to a control panel, fingers flying across the alien interface. 30 seconds! 30 seconds felt like 30 years. Dominion troops pushed forward, their armor gleaming under the hangar lights. Falcon's rifle overheated, and he switched to his sidearm, covering Mara's back. With a final spark, the blast doors groaned open. Go! 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 The team rushed inside, leaving the chaos of the hangar behind. The doors sealed shut behind them, cutting off the sound of the battle. Now they were inside the obsidian fang, deep in enemy territory. The corridors ahead were dark and silent, lit only by strips of cold blue light. Somewhere in this labyrinth of metal was the reactor core, and Commander Vare. Falcon raised his weapon, scanning the shadows. "All right," he said quietly. "Let's finish this." The corridor was narrow and cold, the walls lined with dark alien metal that seemed to absorb sound. Every footstep echoed like a warning to whatever lurked ahead. Falcon kept his rifle raised, his helmet display scanning for movement. The separatist, Guide, a tall, thin alien named Tara, moved at the front, her glowing eyes fixed on the path. "This way," Tara whispered. "The reactor chamber is 6 decks below." They advanced quickly, stepping over bundles of cables and avoiding clusters of strange pulsating conduits. The deeper they went, the more the air felt heavy, as if the ship itself was watching. Suddenly, Tara froze. Her head tilted toward the ceiling. "Drones!" she hissed. A faint clicking sound grew louder, and from vents above, spider-like Dominion machines dropped into the corridor. Their long, bladed legs scraped against the floor as their central eyes glowed red. "Contact!" Falcon shouted. The team unleashed a storm of gunfire. Plasma bolts and bullets ripped into the drones, but more kept coming, crawling along the walls and ceiling like metallic predators. One lunged at a human soldier, knocking him to the ground before Falcon blasted it apart at point-blank range. "Keep moving!" Ross's voice barked over comms from the command center back on Earth. "You don't have time to get bogged down." They fought their way forward, the smell of scorched metal and burning oil filling the corridor. 2 soldiers were wounded, but the group pressed on. Tara led them to a shaft with a narrow maintenance lift. "This is the fastest way down," she said. They crammed onto the lift, and it groaned as it descended into the ship's lower levels. The walls here were covered in thick root-like cables that pulsed with energy, feeding power toward the core. When the lift stopped, they found themselves facing a massive blast door twice the height of a man. It was engraved with the Dominions, jagged symbols, and faint heat radiated from it. "This is it," Tara said. "Beyond this is the reactor chamber." Mara stepped forward, pulling out her hacking kit. "Give me 2 minutes." They formed a defensive circle while she worked, covering all angles. The air was unbearably hot now, and the floor vibrated faintly with the power of the core. Then, a new sound. Heavy, synchronized footsteps. From the shadows at the far end of the hall, figures emerged. Not drones, not regular soldiers. These were Dominion elites, taller, stronger, their armor a deep shining black edged in crimson. Each carried a long curved blade that shimmered in the heat. Falcon's jaw tightened. "They know we're here." The elites broke into a charge. "Mara!" "Door now!" Falcon yelled, opening fire. The elites moved fast, deflecting plasma and bullets with unnatural precision. One slammed into a separatist warrior, sending him crashing into the wall. Another sliced through a human's armor, sparks flying. The fight was brutal and close. Falcon emptied his rifle, drew his combat knife, and drove it into the gap of an elite's neck plating. The alien roared and collapsed. "Got it!" Mara shouted. The blast door slid open, revealing the reactor chamber, a vast circular space dominated by a massive sphere of glowing blue energy suspended by thick cables and magnetic fields. They had made it, but alarms were already screaming. Through the ship, and the sound of more troops closing in echoed from behind. Falcon looked at the core, then at his team. "Set the charges. We end it here." The reactor chamber pulsed with blinding light, the energy sphere crackling like a captive sun. The heat was suffocating, the hum of power so deep it rattled in their bones. Falcon moved fast, handing out explosive charges while Mara synced them to a single detonator. "Tara, cover the east entrance," Falcon ordered. "Everyone else, plant the charges on the main supports." The team spread out, running along narrow catwalks that circled the core. Separatist warriors secured the high ground, firing down the corridors where enemy reinforcements would come. Falcon worked on the largest stabilizer, attaching 2 high-yield charges and locking them in place. Then the chamber doors burst open. Commander Vare stepped inside. He was taller than any Dominion soldier they had seen, wrapped in black armor, etched with silver runes. His face was hidden behind a mask shaped like a predator's skull, and his voice carried like a blade through the air. "You have come far," Vare said, his words slow and deliberate. "But this is where you die." He moved with terrifying speed. In one sweeping motion, his blade cleaved through a separatist's rifle, sending the alien tumbling from the catwalk. Falcon fired at point-blank range. The shot sparked harmlessly, off Vare's armor. "Mara, finish it!" Falcon shouted, blocking a strike with his combat knife. The impact nearly tore his arm from its socket. Vare lunged again, his blade slicing across Falcon's chest plate, leaving a deep groove. Falcon staggered but didn't fall. He sidestepped, forcing Vare toward a narrow section of the catwalk. On the far side, Mara slammed the last charge into place. "Done! Timer set for 90 seconds!" Vare roared, realizing the danger. He shoved Falcon aside and sprinted for Mara, but Teyra leapt from above, tackling him. The two crashed to the lower level, Teyra's blade flashing as she struck. Again and again. "Go!" Teyra screamed. Falcon hesitated for only a second, then grabbed Mara and signaled the team. They sprinted for the maintenance shaft they'd used earlier, alarms blaring louder than ever. The timer ticked down. 60 seconds. They climbed, the heat growing unbearable as the core destabilized. The ship groaned like a wounded beast, metal straining under the pressure. Dominion troops swarmed below, firing wildly, but they were too late. 40 seconds. The shuttle waited in the hangar, engines hot. The survivors piled in, Falcon the last aboard. As the shuttle lifted, a shockwave rocked the ship, the reactor's containment field collapsing. From space, the obsidian fang shuddered, cracks of blue energy racing across its hull. Then, in a blinding flash, the flagship exploded. The blast, tearing through the remaining Dominion fleet. On the shuttle, no one spoke. They just watched the light fade, knowing they had won. But not without cost. Teyra and half the team were gone. Falcon leaned back in his seat, chest heaving. Let's go home. Far below, Earth turned slowly under the sunlight, free again. For now.